Hello and welcome to the Tea Party Hardy channel. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I want to go over a few news stories that was on the PBS NewsHour a few nights ago. And I kind of wish I could do this every single day, but I just don't have time. But it's so easy to take the PBS NewsHour and just shred it for accuracy. They are so filled with neglect and lies and more lies and just warping of reality. So, with that being said, let's take a look at what this fellow has to say, who was an invited guest of the PBS NewsHour. And if there's an echo on this, I apologize. This is an experiment in production. It's not playing. Hold on, there we go.
They're not. And you've said a couple times that it's hard to know how long this is going to go on. I mean, what are we realistically looking at? Next year, the end of next year? I mean, what's the soonest this could start to look healthy again?
Well, the soonest could be we get a vaccine and everyone has it by a year from now. That would be pretty fast. But I don't think it's going to be that fast. I mean, again, you have many experts on this program who can speak to it better than me. But, right now, until that happens, we just don't know. There's enormous uncertainty in the economy, and people are in a very precarious position. And there's certainly not going to be an accident in September. There's not going to be an accident in November. It's going to be well into next year. We're a few months into this only. It started in March. It's still, just the end of July. We have at least the same again to go. I mean, people are naturally, going crazy.
Yes, they are going crazy. They're tired of being put in jail when all the prisoners are being let out of jail.
From the confinement, we need to find a solution, at least with masks or with something, so that people can function at some level compared to what we have now.
Grim forecast for economist Ken Rogoff. Thank you very much, though.
And there it is. Grim forecast. Which is why you invited him on. It's the only reason he was invited on. They knew his perspective before they invited him. Good luck finding a conservative on the show. It happens like once every 3 to 4 weeks. And then they just beat him to death. So here it is. It's like, oh, grim forecast. Yeah, no kidding. You invite him on to tell how horrible it is, and then you get to echo it with your ridiculous post-interview comment. Grim forecast. And this is what they do every single day on their NewsHour show, is they invite guests that they know will push their agenda, and then they wrap it up with like, oh, it's so solemn. Well, if you'd invite Stephen Moore on, or some other conservative that could actually point out the bright spots and where we need to go, instead of just, oh, woe is me, we're all gonna die. When no, I won't give you a number, but it's under 1% are gonna die from the horrible, horrible cootie. Okay, so let's go to our next spot. And this one, this one is one of their favorites. Let me find it here. It's at 11:21. So here we go. Doing this on the cheap. I hope you don't mind. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, that was this one. Oh dear. No, it isn't. Where's 11:21? 11. Again, I appreciate your patience while I get this going. Because if I do it the other way, where I edit and splice it together nice and neat, it takes hours for my computer to spit out. And I'm not kidding, it really does take hours. Whereas this just takes you a few seconds of you sitting there and being patient, and I'm greatly appreciative. And here we go.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost nearly 226 points to close at 26,313. The Nasdaq was the only bright spot, rising about 45 points, but the S&P 500 was 12. President Trump stirred a news storm today with a tweet suggesting that the November 3rd presidential election might be postponed. He claimed again, without evidence, that...
There it is. She loves to say that about Trump. She'll quote Trump and then she'll say, without evidence. Yet for 3 years, not ever once out of that woman's mouth did she report on the Russia, and say without evidence. And yet, it is and was without evidence of Russia. And she never said it, but she constantly says it about Trump. And what's hilarious is she says, without evidence, he says the election day is going to be filled with fraud and all this other stuff. It's like, no, he did post the evidence. You just chose not to show it. He posted the example of New York and Philadelphia. Don't you tell us with a straight face that he didn't do evidence. You chose to not share it. But yes, he did do the evidence. But that is her favorite thing. Joe Biden was on there the other day making accusations about Trump, and she didn't say Joe Biden without evidence. And yet, Joe Biden had no evidence. No, that term is reserved for the president. And I'm sorry, that's your job as the reporter to find out if there's evidence or not. You don't get to run around saying without evidence. No, you present the evidence for or against. But no, that would mean you'd have to find out, oh my God, there's tons of examples of huge problems with mail-in voting. But you'd rather just say, without evidence, toward the president, and uniquely toward the president. Let's look further into this story. But again, if you're a watcher of PBS NewsHour, you hear her say it almost every single time she quotes Trump. Not every time, but wow, we're talking 90%. And she's never said it of anybody else that I have record of. If you do, post it. Show the link. I want to see it and hear it.
Mail-in voting would mean widespread fraud. Then he asked if officials should, quote, delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote. That drew bipartisan disapproval, including from...
Now look at that right there.
Vote. That drew...
She says without evidence, and now listen to what he said. He said with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, secure, and safely vote. You know, like the way the Democrats are delaying starting schools and starting churches and starting all these other things. So it's okay to stop all those, but not the election day. Okay. So it's, all right. But the point is, he said not absentee voting, which, and again, he posted the video and everything else about the New York and the Philadelphia situations. Oh, in New Jersey. I don't think he did New Jersey. That was Tim Pool.
Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote. That drew bipartisan disapproval, including...
Oh, with bipartisan disapproval. I don't think so.
From the top Senate and House Republicans.
Never in the history of the country, through wars, depressions, and the Civil War, have we ever not had a federally scheduled election on time.
See, they're not talking about the mail-in voting. They're talking about moving the date. The issue is the mail-in voting. But that wouldn't do any good because that would show that the president is onto something. So they're going to go this other angle, which is fine. But let me suggest this. According to the Constitution and the amendments that have been put in it, Election Day is the first it's really long. It's the first Tuesday of November after the first Monday, or it's something like that. It lands up being between November 3rd and November 8th. Okay, that's Election Day. She's screaming and she's got... I don't want to leave him like that. And she's screaming along with everybody else, oh, you can't move the Election Day. Guys, you've moved the Election Day. With early voting and mail-in voting that's been existent in some states, people start voting 1 month, 2 months in advance of the election. You've moved the voting day. You just moved it backwards. Instead of moving it forwards, you moved it backwards. Or depending on your perspective, it could be the reverse. But the point being, people are voting not on Election Day. People are voting, again, it depends on your region because that's the way the Constitution is set up. The states and the regions get to pick how they do it. But we've already moved voting day, and it's created this huge disaster. There are people that vote so early that their candidate freaking dies, and then they can't recast their ballot because you don't get to recast a ballot. That's not voting, that's revoting, and that's cheating. So all this hoopla about, oh, voting day is so important. Well, if it were voting day, I would be agreeing with you. I like the idea of voting day. It's not corrupt when it's voting day, or it's a lot harder. Because when you do voting day, they have the lawyers there and they have all that other stuff to make sure that there's far less shenanigans. That's actually not a bad idea, to tell you the truth. But no. Extending the voting day for weeks, months, and then they come around and say, oh, you're trying to take away my voting rights by making it only 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. It's voting day, people, not voting months. You're the ones that distorted it. Put it back to voting day so that when the day is over, we can actually count the ballots and know who freaking won. That will not be happening this November. There's no way. It hasn't happened in a long time anyways. You go all the way back to Gore versus Bush. We had to wait like weeks and weeks and weeks. It was horrible. And that's going to be nothing compared to this. Okay, our next story is, let's see what Obama does when you invite him to a funeral. So this is at 52:30, so let me find that. Again, I appreciate your patience for sticking around. And almost there. Stay on target. It's away. There we go.
To speak today, Barack Obama to deliver the eulogy. He chose to link John Lewis's causes to the politics of now.
Yeah, he politicized it. Not the politics of now. He chose to politicize a freaking funeral. Because that's what Democrats do. You invite a Democrat to your funeral and allow them to speak, oh my God, they're going to politicize the entire thing. They're not talking about the dead guy. No, listen, he's not talking about the dead guy.
There are those in power who are doing their darndest to discourage people from voting.
That's not about the dead guy.
By closing polling locations and targeting minorities and
Not the dead guy.
students with restrictive ID laws.
with restrictive ID laws. The same restrictive ID laws to buy cold syrup, to rent a car, to fly on an airplane. Actually, those are more strict now, but not to vote. Now, you've been told for 5 months you can't go to church, and you've been told for 5 months you can't go to a funeral. Are you looking at what I'm looking at? That's a lot of people at a funeral, and that's a lot of people social distancing none. Oh, but they're wearing mask. Mask. Single layered mask. The cootie is 0.12 microns in size. It takes 1,000 of them stacked up on top of each other to create a single human hair's width. Diameter. And you really think those single layer masks are doing that? It's like with Herman Cain. They put on the PBS NewsHour. Oh, and Herman Cain went to a Trump rally and didn't wear a mask, and he died 8 days later. Without evidence that it was related to that. Without evidence, as she would say. Without evidence. And has she forgotten? Or is she taking advantage of the people listening forgetting? The mask that do work, PPE, these masks don't work. They're not PPE. In order for them to work, according to the Wall Street Journal, they must be 3 layers thick of thick material and be worn skin tight. You know, to impersonate an N95 mask, which keeps out 95% of the cooties. Not 100, 95. These people aren't wearing 3-layered masks, and they're definitely not skin tight. They tell you over and over again, the masks aren't for you, it's to protect others. So how would Herman Cain's wearing a mask have protected him? Oh, they don't want you to remember that. They just want you to make the connection with Herman Cain was at a Trump rally, and then he got sick. You figure it out. But you also told us that in order for the mask to be successful, they have to be personal protection equipment, PPE. And none of these people at this funeral or the Trump rally were wearing PPE. That means it only protects those around you. So Herman Cain would have needed everybody else to wear those. But again, 0.12 microns. Not a single one of those masks are stopping that virus from popping through. And this is the funeral and the church you can't go to. Look at all those people packed together like sardines. That ain't social distancing. And those are single-layered masks, and they're not skin tight. And will you hear of all the deaths that come out of this and the correlations? Nope, you will not. So thanks for sticking around with me on this experiment of a way to do this. And if it works, we'll do more. If not, I don't know. It takes a long time to do this particular kind, but it takes forever to do it if I do it officially. So again, I appreciate your patience. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the future.